Hi guys! In today's video, we're going to have a look at the first unit of business management, which is about understanding business activity. The very first unit is going to be an introductory unit where we learn about how business work, what is business activity, what is the purpose of business activity, what are the different people involved. And the first chapter is going to be an introduction to business management. There's actually two parts to this one. We're going to start with a general introduction, and in the second part, we're going to talk about how to start a business. So let's get started. So let's start with the brainstorming. Most of you probably already have an idea about business. So let's try to brainstorm, trying to think, maybe write it down. What is meant by business? Yeah, really try to give yourself some time for brainstorming. Even pause the video and try to answer the following questions. What is the function of a business? Or even, do we need businesses? In this unit, we're going to look at the economic problem of unlimited wants and limited resources. We're going to introduce the factors of production. We're going to have a look how economic activity has developed through time and how it looks like today. What is meant by a business? What are the different functions of a business? And what different economic sectors in the economy we have, or the businesses can operate in. In business management, we can classify between two things. Now, try to have a look at these pictures. On the left, you have pictures that are representing something. And on the right, you also have pictures representing something. Try to have a think, what would you name the following with one word? So as maybe some of you have correctly answered, the things on the left are needs. So essential things for the survival of human beings. Every human being needs food. Every human being needs water, some shelter, clothing to keep themselves warm, and some basic medicine to survive. On the right side, we have things that are extra, the things that we want. Even if we have all our basic needs, met, we're never gonna stop there. We will always want more. Here we have pictures. I specifically put pictures of like an old phone, because a phone is not essential for living, but even once you have some basic phone, you're never gonna stop there. You always want to have more. And this is the difference and the reason why in business we're starting by explaining the difference between needs and wants, because this is the reason for the existence of business activity. As we'll see, business activity tries to satisfy the needs, which are fairly easy to satisfy, but then also the wants, the things that we want as extra. If we look at some basic definitions, the needs, as I said, are essential goods or services necessary for living, and they satisfy the basic things for life. Whereas wants, they're non-essential goods and services that people would like to have, but they don't need to have, and they often are related to our interests and tastes. Yeah, so every person might have different wants, and this is influenced by our interests, our tastes. In general, business activity exists to satisfy those needs and wants. Okay, so now we're already getting to the answers to one of the original questions at the beginning of the chapter. Why does business activity exist? And here we have it. It exists to satisfy our needs and wants. How does that happen? By producing goods and services. Products are classified further into the things that you see on the left, which are some tangible things. These are the goods. They're physical items. You can touch them, you can see them. The key word here is tangible. And on the right side, we have services, and these are intangible products. They, if somebody makes you a coffee or does your accounting for you, yes, you can touch the coffee, you can touch the paper on which you have the results of for example, the accounting, audit, whatever. But the service itself is not tangible, it's intangible, and it's actually the service itself, the activity that is done by that person, that adds the most value. Okay, there it might be interesting to discuss, what is, for example, Netflix or HBO Go. Would that be a good? Would we classify that as something tangible? Or would we classify it as a service? Because in these examples, the difference is quite obvious. But if we look here, would you consider these streaming services as goods or services? And while you think about that, also try to think of the reason why. How would you explain your answer? So most people might say, hey, the movies are tangible because they're emotions coming, out of us. We have emotions when we watch them. They change throughout the time, that the streaming Netflix changes their movies over time, the same as HBO Go. And movies are tangible, right? We can buy a movie on a CD. So this is just like a library of movies. But others might argue, no, it's a service because actually, since you're not the owner of the movie, even if you buy a DVD, you own the DVD, but you don't own the movie. In a way, in this is similar way, Netflix and HBO Go are services, and I actually also agree with that it's a service. You are paying a monthly subscription, and for that the service is the access to those movies. And it might be easier to imagine yourself or imagine the extremes that were, before the creation of these streaming services. For example, back in the day when you would like to watch a movie, you could either buy an actual DVD and own it, or the other option would be to rent a movie and then return it. The renting would be a service, and the service would be in basically getting the movie, for example, for 1 day or 2 days, whereas the DVD would be a tangible good. And here we're kind of maybe mixing the two, but in the end, it is a service. Often the service is not tangible, but the result is tangible. So this is where the confusion might come in, but make sure that you get this right. So coming back to the classification of products. Products satisfy our needs and wants. We already said that. And we can classify goods even further. So we can classify goods, and the first classification is consumer goods. So these are goods bought and consumed by the end customer and end consumer. And the opposite would be capital goods. And capital goods are often, big machines, big goods, tangible assets. They often might serve as assets for example, for a business. If a business buys a capital good, it's going to be its asset. So these are tangible assets that are used in order to produce other goods, most often other consumer goods. Capital goods can also be used to produce other capital goods. But the idea is that capital goods are sort of like tools. They're sold to businesses. So your customer would not be the end consumer, but it would be another business. It would be like a B2B, business to business transaction, whereas the consumer goods are bought for consumption by the average consumer, and they are the end result of production. Usually after the consumer goods, there's nothing else like coming in at the stage of production. Any examples of capital goods? Well, here are some examples. Look at these big machines for example, in the automotive industry and in any big construction industry. Some company creates these tools. Even here, on the left bottom, you can see parts of a car. This is the door. Here you can see the lighting. These are sort of semi-finished products that are then supplied, sold to, let's say, some of the automotive producers, and they create the final product, which would be a car. And whether the car is going to be considered as a consumer good or capital good really much depends on who's going to be using it. If it's going to be a business using the cars, for example, to provide a taxi service, then the car would serve as a capital good. Whereas if it would be used, by family to drive around and take kids to clubs, then it would be considered a consumer good. Later on, consumer goods can be classified further down into durable goods and non-durable goods. Here, the definition of non-durable goods is that its duration is up to 3 years. Durable goods basically take longer or endure for a longer period of time. Some examples here, again, we can use, let's say, washing machine. Washing machine would be a durable good. Computer could be a durable good. A car. Non-durable goods, typical examples would be food, hygienic products, fast products that you tend to consume faster. So again, what is business? What is a business about? Did we answer those questions? It's about creating outputs that satisfy needs and wants of the society. And we already know that these outputs can be classified into goods and services, and then the goods can be classified further. So looking at the business production process, we covered this stage. And now let's have a look at the first stage. Let's have a look at the inputs. So what inputs do we need in order to produce our products? Again, here you can pause the video, try to brainstorm what does the business need to create any product, really, any product. Okay, so if you're finished with brainstorming, let's have a look if you got some answers right. Definitely what a business needs is some kind of land, some kind of either space where to operate or resources, raw materials to produce from. Then definitely it's going to need some people to actually take care of the processes inside the business, to sell, to advertise, to recruit new people, to even produce the goods. You need people. So that would be the labor. Then we need some starting capital, some finances to start with. We might use some equipment, and the last one, and could be like some skills, the risk taking ability, the ability to manage all these different processes, and that is coming from the entrepreneur himself or herself. In general, we sum up everything, all the inputs that can go into the business, that can create the outputs, into one term: factors of production. So factors of production, super key term. We're going to be using it throughout the different units. We're going to come back to it. Business management is super important. And in business management, it is super important to know your terminology. Factors of production is one term. Land, labor, capital, enterprise are other terms. And yeah, obviously we can describe these things using, simpler terms. But in business management, we use the specific terminology. We will use definitions a lot. So this is one of the first terms to learn. Factors of production, there are 4 of them. We combine them to produce products. And what would be each of them defined as? So let's have a look. Land would be all of the different natural resources provided by nature, all the materials, all the, even the space, steel. Steel is already a product of other materials, but let's say copper, brass, aluminum. We are all extracting these from nature. And we also need space. That would also fall under land. Labor this would be all the people's efforts to make products, all the humans' efforts that goes into producing something would fall under labor. Capital, this would be all the machinery, equipment, and not just that, but also finance, key ingredient to manufacture products. Usually when we talk about capital, we might think only of finance, but we actually also put in or include the machinery and equipment, because these are usually to buy those, you most of the time need a lot of capital, a lot of finance. Also, once you buy them, they're going to be an asset in your business, and it's going to be an example of a capital expenditure, as we're going to learn later on in the finance unit. Enterprise. Now, as in the bottom, you can see all these different famous entrepreneurs: Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Sir Richard Branson, Oprah, and Mary Kay Ash. These are all examples of entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs who have created businesses that solve or satisfy the needs and wants of a large number of people. And enterprise is a factor of production that all of these guys have in common. It's that specific skill, or if you want to say, it's this risk-taking ability of combining all the factors of production that we talked about: land, labor, and capital, and creating a system, creating something that produces goods and services that satisfy people's needs and wants. Each of these factors of production is going to be paid by the business. Okay, each of these factors of production needs rewards. The payment for land is called rent. And now, can you think what we call the payments for the other factors? I'll give you some time. Again, if it's too fast, try to pause the video and answer the questions for yourself. Okay, so the payment for labor is going to be either wage or salary. The payment for capital, we're going to call interest, because we pay interest for borrowed money. And the reward that entrepreneurs are getting for their risk-taking ability, for the skill, is the profit that they're getting out of the business. So profit would be the reward for entrepreneurs. And another thing that I also want to mention with regards to the factors of production, when a business has a high proportion of, let's say, labor inputs to other factors of production, we say it is labor intensive. And then if, for example, a business has a higher proportion of land inputs compared to other factors of production, we say that it is land intensive. Can you think of an example of labor intensive business, of a land intensive business, of a capital intensive business? Again, if you're not sure about the definition, read it again. It's when the business uses one factor of production in a higher proportion to the other factors of production. I would say an example of a labor-intensive business would be education. There, you're using labor, the teachers, much more. You're using their efforts much more than you're using, for example, capital, any tools or land, the space. It is let's say, a more key ingredient in providing the service of education. A land intensive business might be an agricultural business, or a capital intensive business could definitely be the automotive industry. There you need a lot of machines, a lot of expensive equipment. Factors of production are scarce. That means that they're limited in supply. The fact that they're limited in supply creates the economic problem. What is the economic problem? The fact that we have unlimited wants, that no matter what you give us, it's just human nature. We're always going to want more. And at the same time, we have limited resources, limited factors of production. This leads to the problem of scarcity. Scarcity is actually a relative concept rather than an absolute concept, because sometimes, let's say, water is more scarce in the desert, but less scarce in the rainforest. Because of the fact that factors of production are limited, we always have to make a choice. As an individual, we're going to be choosing whether to buy a car or go on a holiday. Or as a business, we might be choosing between purchasing a machine A or machine B. Even governments make choices. One government might decide investing in a school. The other one might build a new road to support the infrastructure, the economy, and so on. And this is basically where the economic problem basically arises. It leads to opportunity cost. We're not going to cover opportunity cost, what it means, But in general, this is how it's all related. Factors of production are limited, wants are unlimited, and this causes the economic problem of scarcity and means that we need to make a choice. Now let's have a look at how scarcity and the need to make a choice affects production. So we did look at the outputs and we also looked at the inputs. And now we're going to have a look at the transformation process. The transformation process describes what happens inside the business, and it tells us how value is added or where value is added to inputs to create outputs. And in general, the processes that happen inside our business are split into 4 different functions, as we will see later. But now, just briefly, some history background. How production was done 200 years ago, it was all done by one person. One person, let's call him Joe, would cut the wood, he would assemble the table, he would polish the table, and then in the end, he would deliver the table on a horse and a cart to the market. Now, production is done today in the modern world is that each of the stages of the production process are split up and people specialize. First of all, they divide the labor up and then they specialize in one specific task. There's going to be one person using a specialist machine and just cutting wood. Then carpenters would assemble the table. Then there would be a special department for polishing tables. And then you might even hire a different company, transportation company, to collect the tables and deliver them to the furniture retailers. This is called division of labor. And it's actually specialization and division of labor is happening as a result of the fact that we have limited resources and we're trying to make the best use of them. We split the production process up into different tasks. Usually we have the workers specialize, and this obviously is going to lead to some advantages and disadvantages. You're free to brainstorm, think about what these advantages and disadvantages could be, and then in a minute we're going to cover it. So it could be the advantages of splitting the production process into different parts. First of all, you're going to be specialized, you're going to be trained in that specific task. You're probably going to produce your task at a higher quality. You're going to be better at that specific task. It's going to increase efficiency of the whole process. It's definitely going to increase output. As a society, we're going to create more of the products. And in general, it's going to save time. The disadvantages, however, is that in the end, if every person just does one simple task, one job, they're going to be bored. Possibly because of that, you might have even drops in efficiency. And let's say if one person or key person, let's say the person at the wood cutting machine is the only one that can operate the machine, in case of absence, he's going to stop the whole production line because there won't be any wood to assemble, there won't be any tables to polish, there won't be any tables to take to the retailer shop. These are some basic disadvantages and advantages of division of labor and specialization. But again, we're coming back to the original questions. One of the original questions was why business activity is needed. Here, this picture is showing the definition of value added by the business. On the left, we have the selling price of a product, and this is what people are willing to pay for your product. But here, you only have the costs of the materials and let's say of the wages that you pay. So why is it that the people are not paying just for the costs? Why is it that they're paying even double the amount of costs? It's because by adding all these materials together, by adding the human efforts to, in producing something new, The business is adding value, and the people are really, you're solving their problem. They're either covering their need or covering their want, and they're willing to pay extra just for the value that your business added to them. So businesses are really about adding value. If your business is not adding value, then you're probably not going to be a successful business. The purpose of businesses is to combine the factors of production to make products which will satisfy people's needs and wants. That we've already covered. This is just repetition. And one final thing, specialization is needed to ensure the efficient use of resources. So the transformation process, the history of it, why we have people specializing, we have covered. Most businesses actually, because of that, have four broad types of processes. These are sometimes called the business functions. The four business functions are going to be quite easy to remember because they actually copy the units of the IB Business Management course. It is human resources management, finance and accounts, marketing, and operations management. Each of these departments has a different role. Just really briefly, human resources management is about managing the people, picking the right people for the job, analyzing what job we need people, even picking the right people, training them, motivating them, leading them. Finance accounts, it's going to be about planning, budgets, planning revenues, planning costs, planning profits, estimating, constructing some forecasts, eventually counting if the business is going to be profitable. Marketing is going to be about finding a specific need or want of customers, doing some market research, designing the perfect product to meet these needs and wants of customers, and then creating the perfect marketing mix and promoting the product, letting the people know what the product, why is it special, and what the product is solving, which of the problems. Operations management, this is where you add value. This is where you produce the products. In case that it's a good producing business, then it's going to be about the factory, about adding all the materials, research and development, how to do it the most efficiently, which materials to use, what are some stock levels that are optimal to have, when should we reorder, how much should we reorder, things like that. And if it's going to be about service, then it's going to be very similar, making sure that there is the best quality of the service at that specific right time, making sure that every person is trained in the service and adding value to the service so that customers are satisfied. You might be wondering, why is the iPhone 15, a picture of the iPhone 15 here? It's because I would like you to do this exercise. Think of the example. In general, business functions have to cooperate. They cooperate on different, let's say, decisions, on different tasks within the business. And I would like you to think how the decision by Apple to develop and launch its new model of iPhone, the iPhone 15, is going to influence or be influenced by one of these business functions. So what is going to be in all of this, in the decision to launch the iPhone 15, what is going to be the role of human resources management? What are they going to be, how are they going to contribute to the launch of iPhone 15? Then the same thing goes for finance and accounts. How are they going to contribute? What is going to be their job in all of this? What is going to be the marketing's job? What is operations management going to be doing? Try to pause the video, partner up, try to do it as a group, try to think of the different activities, roles of the different departments, and try to use it on that specific example of launching iPhone 15. definitely give yourself some more time. And just to make sure, and it might be very similar to the previous exercise, but this one we could do together. Let's identify which business function is most likely to undertake the following roles. Setting prices of new products. This here you can say that it's going to be the marketing department, in combination with, for example, finance and accounts. They're going to cooperate to set the price for the new product. Recruiting a new production manager. Well, since it's going to be a manager of the production department, we will definitely need to be cooperating with the operations department. But at the same time, recruiting is all a discipline of the human resources department. So I would put HR as the first answer and then operations as the second answer. Allocating resources to purchase capital equipment. Well, allocating resources is all about finance. Finance guys are the ones that need to find the finance, the source of finance to purchase anything. But then they might be cooperating with operations department, for example, on deciding which capital equipment to buy. Machine A or machine B, which one is going to be the most efficient, which one is going to last more years, and so on. So here they're again going to cooperate a little bit. Deciding on the appropriate levels of stocks for raw materials. Well, this is definitely going to be operations management. Finding out if consumers prefer one product design to another. Whenever you're asking consumers, that's market research. So market research is a discipline of the marketing department. And last is determining the level and number of employees the business needs for future operations. So again, when we talk about employees and human resource needs, that falls under human resource management. So I hope you got this right, and see you next time. Bye.